Episode 11. The Cost of Forgiveness. The sanctuary was restless. The tensions over trust, rules, and survival still simmered. But Samar's arrival had shifted the tone. Her courage, her willingness to risk herself for others, had earned her quiet respect, even among her skeptics. Yet, with every step forward, the sanctuary's fragile unity seemed to teeter. That's when the visitors arrived. A sleek black vehicle rolled to a halt on the outskirts of the camp, standing out sharply against the wilderness. Its design was Vesla-standard, angular, cold, unmistakable. The sanctuary bristled with guards gripping their makeshift weapons, prepared for the worst. The door opened and a man stepped out, flanked by two others. He was older, with steel-grey hair and an air of self-assuredness. His suit was immaculate, his movements deliberate. Zach recognized him instantly. Cyril Morton, a former corporate titan who had been an outspoken critic of Vesla's surveillance practices. Morton had once been a prominent voice in the underground, but his reputation had soured after leaked documents revealed his secret dealings with Vesla. "I've come to speak with Caleb Ford," Morton announced, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. The uninvited guest. Morton was escorted into the sanctuary under heavy scrutiny. People whispered as he passed, their gazes filled with suspicion and contempt. Caleb was waiting for him in the largest tent, his expression calm but guarded. "What brings you here, Morton?" Caleb asked, not bothering with pleasantries. Morton smirked, unbothered by the tension in the room. "I've been following your sanctuary's activities. Word spreads, even in places you wouldn't expect. You're building something interesting here, Caleb, something that could matter." "And you want to be part of it?" Caleb asked, his tone neutral. Morton chuckled. "Let's not pretend I'm a saint. I've made mistakes, burned bridges, broken trust. But I know the system better than anyone here, and I can help you. I have resources, connections, things you'll need when Vesla inevitably comes knocking." The room went quiet, the weight of Morton's words settling over everyone. The woman with the scars. Before Caleb could respond, there was a commotion near the entrance. A woman burst into the tent, her face flushed, her hands trembling. She was unassuming, her clothes tattered and her hair a mess, but her eyes burned with a desperate intensity. "You don't belong here," she said, pointing at Morton. Her voice wavered, but the anger in it was unmistakable. Morton raised an eyebrow, looking her up and down. "Do I know you?" "You should," she snapped. "You destroyed my life." The room froze. Caleb stepped between them, his voice calm. "What's your name?" "Amara," the woman said, her voice cracking. "I was one of the first flagged by Vesla's algorithm, early trials of their predictive model. They said I was high risk. They took my job, my home, everything. And why? Because this man sold them the data they used to profile me." The divide grows. The tension in the room exploded. "He's one of them," someone muttered. "We can't trust him." "Amara's right," another voice chimed in. "This sanctuary isn't for people like him." Caleb raised a hand, silencing the room. "Everyone deserves to speak," he said firmly. "Even Morton." Morton met Amara's gaze, his face unreadable. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "But you're right. I was part of the machine that destroyed your life. I told myself it was just business, just numbers, but I see now what it really was. That's why I'm here, to make amends." "You don't get to make amends," Amara said, her voice trembling with anger. "Not after what you've done." The table and the tears. Caleb stepped forward, addressing the group. "Amara, I understand your pain, but forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing the future. If Morton is willing to change, to leave behind the system he helped build, shouldn't we give him that chance?" Amara's eyes filled with tears. "And what about people like me? The ones who had no choice, who lost everything. Why does he get a second chance?" Caleb's voice softened. "Because the truth changes people. And if it doesn't, then everything we're doing here is meaningless. The room remained tense, but the meeting ended without resolution. Morton stayed, but his presence divided the sanctuary further. That night, as the camp settled into uneasy quiet, Caleb found Amara sitting by the fire. "I'm not saying you have to forgive him," Caleb said gently, "but I want you to think about what forgiveness could mean. Not for him, but for you." Amara stared into the flames, her voice quiet. "I don't know if I can." "You don't have to know," Caleb replied. "You just have to be open to it. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about letting go of the weight they've left on you." The sustainers. In the days that followed, Amara kept her distance, but Morton began to integrate into the sanctuary's work. Slowly he proved himself, using his connections to secure supplies and quietly donating resources that would have taken weeks to scavenge. Meanwhile, Samar and Arav began organizing new efforts to expand the sanctuary's influence. They started building encrypted networks, reaching out to other communities still trapped under Vesla's control. The sanctuary wasn't just a refuge anymore, it was becoming a movement. Among the volunteers were several women who had been deeply impacted by the sanctuary's mission. Amara, though still wary of Morton, joined their ranks, finding purpose in helping others escape the system. Caleb watched them from a distance, his heart heavy but hopeful. The sanctuary was far from perfect, but it was alive. People were changing, growing, becoming more than what the system had told them they could be. A quiet moment. Late one night, Zach found Caleb sitting by the river staring at the stars. "Do you think this is enough?" Zach asked, sitting beside him. Caleb smiled faintly. "Enough for what?" "For redemption. For the people who've lost so much." Caleb was quiet for a long moment. "Redemption isn't about balancing the scales, Zach. It's about moving forward, letting the truth make something new out of what's broken. That's enough." As the water rushed past, Zach felt a strange peace settle over him. The sanctuary was imperfect, messy, full of tension and doubt, but it was real, and maybe that was enough. And as the firelight flickered in the distance, Amara sat beside Morton for the first time, the weight of the past still present but beginning to shift.